17th century poison box disguised as a book. In 1991, the famous Colombian drug lord Pablo Escobar reached an agreement with the government. Instead of being extradited to the US, he was to serve 5 years in prison. But ordinary prison didn't satisfy him. Escobar built himself a prison of dreams with a soccer field, a large dollhouse, a bar, a jacuzzi, and even a waterfall. The uniform of Archduke Franz Ferdinand from 1914, whose assassination triggered the start of World War I. A boy handing out the evening newspaper with news of the Titanic disaster, 1912. Heads of 7 major U.S. tobacco companies testify under oath that nicotine is not addictive, 1994. A German soldier gives bread to a Russian orphan boy, 1942. This blonde, blue-eyed child was spared, but tragically another boy nearby, dark-haired and swarthy, was treated with brutal cruelty by the very same soldiers. It used to be easy to buy things now banned by law. The photo shows women buying cocaine on the streets of Berlin, Germany, 1929. Initiation of a newcomer to work at a whites-only restaurant, USA, 1960. Louis and Lola, survivors of the Titanic. A young bride heading to her wedding, China, 1912. Thieves attack a store in the commercial area of Caledonia, Panama City during the U.S. invasion of Panama in 1989. Mothers with children in artificial respirators designed for protection against chemical attacks. Great Britain, 1939. Girls painting clock dials with radioactive paint, most of them would later die from radiation sickness, 1922. Only 3 people in the USA were qualified to manually pack parachutes for Apollo 15. Their experience was so important that they were not allowed to travel together in one car, out of fear that a car accident could jeopardize the entire space program. The photo shows electricians Randall Champion and J.D. Thompson. They were conducting repair work when Randall was struck by an electric shock. More than 4,000 volts passed through his body, instantly stopping his heart. Thompson rushed to help and performed CPR. Randall's life was saved. The mummified monarch and his daughter, who died in 1080, Mont Saint-Michel Castle, Normandy, France. Inflatable boats made of buffalo hide, early 19th century India. Even back then, there were topless technologies. 1910. A resident of Ohio demonstrates a car of his own design, USA. Cleaning Venetian canals, Italy, 1956. Japanese children at a farewell ceremony before evacuation from Tokyo, 1945. Sylvester Stallone and Dolly Parton, 1984. Unlicensed prostitutes caught by the police at the famous fair, Russia, 1900s. Prostitute's identification card. Prostitution was legal in Russia, but only after registration, 1904. About 100 people draw lots to equally divide 12 acres of purchased sand dunes. This place would later become the city of Tel Aviv, Israel. The audience at a session of hypnotist Anatoly Kashpirovsky for obesity treatment, Russia, 1989. In the 18th century, ladies carried a vinaigrette, a case with ammonia acetic mixture or dry smelling salts. Due to corsets, they often fainted, and a few breaths from the vinaigrette helped them quickly recover. Cedar Log Lumberyard in Seattle, 1939. The swastika on the headquarters of the Russian Fascist Party, Manchuria, 1934. The DeLorean DMC-12 and the filming crew of the movie Back to the Future, USA, 1985. one of the 1.5 million victims executed in Cambodia under the Khmer Rouge regime just for being well-educated, 1978. George McLaurin, one of the first African-American students forced to sit at a separate desk, 1948. U.S. Vice President Nelson Aldrich Rockefeller gives the finger to a crowd of hippies during a public speech, New York, USA, 1976. In 1850 in the U.S., a slave cost about $40,000, adjusted for inflation. Today, about 21 million people are in slavery. The average price of a slave is $90. Los Angeles, 1957. Elderly woman inspecting Vicki Duggan's daring dress at a film award banquet. A copper mask for a war participant, created in an era when plastic surgery was not yet known, 1918. Hitler with the Jewish girl Bernelli Nienau, whom he befriended in 1933. Later, when Hitler learned of her Jewish heritage, their relationship ended. Residents of the Czech city of Asch greet German troops, 1938. In the last century, striptease became popular entertainment at funerals in Taiwan. The tradition originated in mafia circles. Despite a ban in the 1980s, the tradition has survived in rural areas. Klaus Karl Schilling is hooded before his execution in 1946. He was sentenced to death for conducting horrific medical experiments on over 1,000 prisoners at the Dachau concentration camp. Adolf Hitler visits the Dresden exhibition of degenerate art, 1935. A 25-year-old woman at the grave of her brother, who served in the U.S. Army in Iraq and Afghanistan, 2013. Meet Frederick Grant Banting, the scientist who synthesized insulin, giving millions of diabetics a chance for survival. Oskar Schindler, the German entrepreneur who saved nearly 1,200 Jews during the Holocaust by giving them work in his factories in Poland and the Czech Republic. An Armenian woman from Aleppo with tattoos indicating her belonging to a Bedouin tribe, 1915. Arab nomads gave her a choice: marry one of them and convert to Islam, or be handed over to Turkish soldiers. A family portrait, a mother with her son, and instead of the father who died on the front lines of WWI, his greatcoat, Great Britain, 1926. Even with a lawnmower in line, the fuel crisis in the USA, 1973. A diver after inspecting the interior of the sunken battleship Arizona, the day of the attack on Pearl Harbor, December 7, 1941. Soviet peasants listened to the radio for the first time, 1928. To escape violence, a man fled Burma for Bangladesh, carrying his paralyzed parents 160 kilometers, 100 miles over 7 days. One of the main causes of death during the U.S. Civil War was diarrhea, and soldiers from both armies had an unwritten code of honor. One could not shoot a soldier from the opposing army who was squatting to relieve himself. Gangsters celebrate the killing of the leader of a rival gang. New York, 1916. A crowd of children runs to a candy store on the day the government rationing of sweets ended. UK, 1953. Hippies protest against a new law banning people from living in cars, 1969. This is exactly how toilets were designed in the Middle Ages. 1918. A subway train derailed in New York and crashed into a wall. About 100 people died. Subway drivers were on strike that day, and an inexperienced worker was put in charge of the train, exceeding the speed limit fivefold on a curve. A former German soldier, returned from captivity, reads notices on a tree about the search for relatives. Dresden, 1946. All war propaganda, all cries, lies, and hatred always come from people who will not go to that war. George Orwell. Determining racial affiliation in Germany, 1940. An American farmer demonstrates his vehicle powered by a goat running on a treadmill. The goat-mobile could reach speeds of up to 9 mm. A spare goat rests on top. USA, 1900. The wife of the commandant of the German concentration camps Buchenwald and Majdanek was most famous for her obsession with leather products made from human skin. She particularly liked skin with tattoos, from which, by her orders, gloves, lampshades, and bookbindings were made. After the war, she was sentenced to life imprisonment. German POWs watching a Holocaust film, 1945. In the 1940s, women were allowed to smoke in maternity wards. British photographer William Saunders went to China, where he took this staged beheading photo to evoke disgust in the West about Asian customs and motivate it to civilize China. A banquet of disfigured faces, dinner for French soldiers who were disfigured during World War I. Paris, 1925. Bertram Mills's freak show participants inspecting girls with giraffe necks. Freaks were very popular at the time, just as they are now. USA, 1935. Jack Daniel, the father of the famous whiskey Jack Daniels, died from blood poisoning 6 years after injuring his foot by kicking his safe, to which he had forgotten the combination. U.S. President Lyndon Johnson listens to a report from his son-in-law about the real situation in Vietnam, Washington, 1968. Finnish blacksmith Pertimaki stood in line all night and became the first buyer of a bottle of vodka after the repeal of Prohibition on April 5, 1932. The first phone call by an Aborigine, Australia, 1975. The killing of frail children was not only common in Sparta. If a woman gave birth to a deformed child in ancient Greece, she would kill it. In Rome, this was mandated by law. A radio broadcast about gangsters, USA, 1930s. French Catholic clergy in Dijon burning an effigy of Santa Claus in front of children in protest against the pagan Christmas, 1951. How erotic comics were viewed in the USA, 1942. John Minnick, the heaviest person in medical history. Astonishingly, he found a slim girlfriend, Jeanette. The young couple quickly fell in love and married, despite the 300-pound weight difference between them. Some of the survivors of Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571, which crashed in the mountains. The survivors had to resort to cannibalism to survive. Morrison shelters, bed cages for those who couldn't get to a bomb shelter. They saved many lives during the destruction of homes. Great Britain. Paul Tibbets, the man who dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima, 1996. Soul cleansing with boiling water. In some Catholic countries, it was once believed that a sinner's soul could be cleansed. For this, they poured boiling water down the person's throat or threw hot coals into it. In ancient Greece, a gift of a rabbit from one man to another signified an intention to engage in intimate relations with the recipient. Spanish flu pandemic, 1918. It claimed around 100 million lives worldwide. People were terrified of this devastating disease. The monsters one can encounter in the remote corners of our planet. A giant man-eating crocodile, 29.5 feet long, shot by hunters in Australia, 1957. Preparing a slave for sale, USA, 19th century. A visitor to the underground catacombs with a candle in hand smiles while examining an extensive collection of skulls. Paris, 1935. One of the rare photographs taken on a ship transporting slaves, 1882. They each drank only one glass of beer. Belgium, 1971. Slogans such as "Brits go home" and "Malta wants independence," 1960. Public execution, Persian Empire, 1910. Prince Charles looking bored at his mother's coronation, Queen Elizabeth II, June 2, 1953. It seems he already knew that waiting for the throne would be long. Lumberjacks posing on a giant stump of a sequoia known as Mark Twain in California, USA, 1891. Krista McAuliffe's parents watching the Challenger explode in 1986. The opening of the fountains in Peterhof, 1983. In 1929, during the Soviet-Chinese conflict, a Soviet shell accidentally killed a prostitute in a Japanese brothel. The Japanese consulate sued the USSR for 22,500 yen, calculating the sum based on the number of clients and the income she could have brought to Japan over her lifespan. I am proud of my gay son, New York, 1974. Hachiko continues to faithfully wait for his owner at Shibuya Station, Tokyo, 1933. The release of one of Microsoft's most iconic operating systems, Windows 95. Many are surprised by the fact that Pope Benedict XVI served in Nazi Germany. Two girls on the streets of West Germany talk to their grandparents through a window in a house in the East Zone, separated by a barbed wire barricade, August 14, 1961. Gay activists carry a mile-long rainbow banner through New York City to mark the 25th anniversary of the Stonewall Riots, 1994. In 1997, a collapse occurred at a mine in China. 17 years later, one of the miners was found alive. Doctors bow their heads before 11-year-old Liang Yaoyi, who died of brain cancer. Upon learning of his illness, he volunteered to donate his organs to several people, saving their lives. Shortly before his death, he told his mother, "There are so many wonderful people in the world doing good every day. I want to be one of them." Sparked a reaction. Whether good or bad, I'd love to read your comments below. Get ready for the next installment very soon. Please like and subscribe so you don't miss out. Catch you later.